attendance this afternoon. If you have not yet signed up to indicate your attendance, please do so. Sign-up sheets are up front. If you wish to speak during our public comment period, that's a separate sign-up sheet, but please find that sign-up sheet as well. That one is over with Director Hubbard. So we ask you to, if you're interested in your 2 minutes, to find that over there. All right. We do have a quorum. We got another member on the way, so we'll go ahead and get things moving. I want to read in that pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. I wanted to read a few other comments in before we get started. As indicated in the work session agenda, there is another meeting scheduled in this room this afternoon at 4:30, and so we do have a hard stop today at 4 p.m., and we need to clear the room after that. So just want to give you a heads up on our time constraints in this room. Because of our agenda is very packed, we will not be having additional public comment. As you can read the introductory comments as chair, sometimes I do like to have an additional public comment period, but because of today's number of items on the agenda, we will have the public comment period at the beginning of this meeting, and we hope to have another opportunity for comments during our work session later on after our initial meeting. If we are unable to complete today's work session, the remaining items will carry over to our next Housing Trust Fund Commission meeting, which is scheduled for September the 23rd. If there are contracts any of you are needing to have signed, please give those to James after the meeting, and we'll make sure that we get that taken care of very soon, by the next day. I also want to take a moment to thank our staff and other fellow commissioners for all the work that we've been putting in recent months. I know there's a lot of important business that we've had to review and trying to process, and there's been quite the workload, as all of you know, and in addition to the regular volume of work that goes into administering this fund. So I know that many of you may be aware that there are, there's been a reduced staff with the housing division, so I just want to appreciate everyone's patience and understanding as we try to get everything up to speed as best as we can. We are excited to share that beginning today, our House Fund meetings will be recorded and available on the Metro Nashville network. So as of today, you are now part of the studio audience that is there. A caveat that also came with a gavel, so trade-offs, you win some, you lose some. We'll see how it goes from there, but hopefully this will be beneficial for all of us to go back, and I know sometimes we have things that come up that prevent us from being able to get here. Sometimes it's parking, sometimes it's other things, but that'll be a great thing for everyone. We also have been given new technology up here. We've had a couple test runs this morning, but bear with me as I try to figure out which buttons to press or not press to make sure all the commissioners and everyone else is adequately mic'd up for our audience at home. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge and welcome Angie Hubbard, our housing director, is joining us today, and she's going to walk us through today's agenda and work session. So all that being said, today we've gone through the welcome. The first item that requires our approval is the approval of the minutes. This is our minutes from the July 22nd, 2025 meeting. Commissioners, this was included in your packet. Were there any edits or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion, a second? Second, Anton. All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, now we're moving on to the public comment period. Director Hubbard or Catherine? Were there folks that signed up to speak?
Yes, there are 7 that are signed up. First up is Mr. Andy Zhu.
Mr. Zhu, please press that button and
I would
state your
say
name for
we
the
have to
record.
talk to this for the recording. Hey all, this is Andy Zhu with MFX Ventures. Wanted to have 2 points today. One, as a representative of the cooperative project that y'all funded in round 12. We were recently featured on the Nashville CityCast podcast, so if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about the work we've been doing, we had an interview there. And also wanted to announce that we were lucky enough to win a grant from another funding partner called Capital Impact Partners based out of DC to publicize the results of what we've done at that first cooperative project and be able to disseminate that and publish it and kind of put on a workshop and work sessions around that. So more to come on that, but just wanted to give that quick announcement. Wanted to make a comment that I'm really also very excited about the recording and wanted to encourage, I know we have time constraints today about the public comment after the meeting, but as much as that could be possible to keep going forward, about item 5B on the agenda today, I see that there's a vote to rescind that grant award. This is a comment that I would have probably made at the last round, and I think sometimes there is really important discussion at these meetings that I think that affects everyone in the audience, that it would be great to be able to give you all feedback in a more timely manner. But I would just say that, in my opinion, based off of what happened last vote, what I would think would be right is to go forward with this rescission. Nothing against the applicant, but it seems to me that when you're trying to have a fair scoring mechanism, trying to change the project address kind of post facto would be detrimental to everyone else in line for their grants who had to put their information in all at once. Not to say, and this leads into perhaps what Angie's going to talk about, that changing a site for a better project is not a worthwhile goal, and why I would support some of these changes that might be made to underwriting, to where maybe you all can start evaluating things like that a little bit better. Based off the previous way that the underwriting's been set up, I think that it would be a mistake to move that grant over to a different property. But going forward, I think that goal of saying, hey, we originally tried for this property, but we can do it at a better location is a valuable goal that I would hope you could figure out some way to incorporate that through having stronger underwriting and maybe a different process and how you're balancing the different priorities going forward. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Jonathan Rizzo.
I'm here to talk about action item number B2. It was difficult to watch last month as the developer made significant changes to their project and was unprepared to defend their project. That was not fair to the commission, and it was not fair to our community. But still, I don't believe this commission has considered the urgency with which we need you to work. I see a lot of great people in this room, but I've come here to ask you to build a bridge of communication with the Homelessness Planning Council and Continuum of Care. Because though you may not know it, you are the bottleneck in our work. You are holding us back. We need 10,000 units of 0 to 30% of permanent supportable, affordable housing units immediately before we even start the unified housing strategy. We're only talking about 4.5 million here, and you get almost 10 times that to spend on these developers, but that is a drop in the bucket compared to what we need. And I'm not sure you appreciate the gravity of the situation. We have people being kicked out of tents because state legislators made it a felony to camp on public property. They're being arrested, and they're dying in our streets because the people in this room, among others, are not creating and preserving the necessary permanent supportive affordable housing units for people at the 0 to 30% of the American area median income at a rate that keeps up with our city's growth. It is poor planning and negligence, and their blood is on our hands. This is an emergency, but you're not acting like it. We in the Continuum of Care need you all in this room to ask for more money and work much harder and faster. We need you to advocate. But I personally am asking you, Mr. Chair and commissioners, to build a bridge and communicate better in terms of quality and transparency with the Continuum of Care and Homelessness Planning Council directly, and for the dialogue to not be restricted to back channels and intermediaries like the Planning Department or Office of Homeless Services. So together, we can end chronic homelessness in Davidson County. Your work is extremely important. We need more from you, and we can't do it without you. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. All right, Director Hubbard?
Next, we have Lucille Housework from Habitat for Humanity.
Good afternoon. Last meeting, there was interest expressed in understanding why a developer might have multiple open barns rounds at the same time. And so I wanted to address that issue. And I want to take it from the standpoint that it's not a concern, it's actually to be expected and really a good thing. So if you look at the Barnes Round 15 application, when it talked about the deadlines, it specified that the contract period was 2 years, and the expectation was that a 1-year extension would be granted, and you were to certify that you thought you could meet those deadlines. So in that, it established that a 3-year window was a positive outcome for a project. And so within that, if you look at a project like ours, where we are taking raw land and turning it into homes that are sold at the very end of the process, 3 years is a doable timeframe as long as everything moves right along. And the 3 years turns into 3 phases. Really, the pre-development phase where you're trying to get the permits and you're doing the engineering work and those sorts of things, then the land development work, and then the building of the homes. And so if you did that and you had consecutive annual rounds of Barnes funding, you would always have 3 years worth of Barnes grants open at the same time. And it's possible that you could actually have more than 3 open, because that assumes an annual process. And as this commission will recall, there were additional Barnes funding rounds recently, including like for the ARPA funds. So it would be possible to have more than 3 rounds open. I think finishing the project has become even more possible within the 3 years with the readiness criteria that had been put forth in the application. Do you own the property? Is it properly zoned? Those sorts of things. And so I encourage us to keep those criteria in the applications. I think what can happen, and I know there are several round 10 rounds that are here today for an additional extension, but think things can happen. And really after COVID and during that boom in housing units produced that was discussed last meeting, under the Housing and Infrastructure Study, there were a lot of things that were constrained, including things like transformers. So you were unable to get those in a timely fashion, which kind of backed up certain projects, which backed up the rest of it. So I think as we look forward with additional focus on additional units, looking at those potential bottlenecks is helpful to see how those can be addressed before we get to them. But I just wanted to address the issue of the fact that I think it is actually admirable to have several rounds open from Barnes at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Director Hubbard, next person.
Next, we have Andrea Prince from Rebuilding Together Nashville.
Hello. It's me again, talking about home repair and preservation and how that falls into Barnes funding, and specifically when we're looking at going into the working session of what are the needs to make sure we can preserve as many homes that we can. One of the things that really advocating for is, one, allowing within maybe it's a set aside for rehab or repair that will allow for partial or proportional awards. For us, our work, we don't have to have the whole capital stack at the beginning of a project. We have a continual pipeline of projects that we are working on, and knowing that, you know, some funding towards that, we can still work with it and continue our work and continue our project and have time to gather the other funds needed to complete the project at the end. So that really just, you know, we could get to work right away, we're immediately working and we can continue to work regardless of if it's the full award amount or if there's a proportional amount. Also of looking at the scoring matrix of ensuring that there is we again go back to that clear criteria that's shared with the applicants. In past rounds, we've had a great rubric of the scoring criteria and how you earn each range of points. And so bringing that back into practice would be really helpful for organizations to understand how they can be most competitive through the process, because we can make adjustments on the financial side of figuring out how to fund projects if we know where the points are allocated. In owner-occupied rehab, also was a challenge this past round because we didn't have the same amount of bonus points available to us as other projects did. And so it was already kind of deprioritized in the funding, in that we couldn't earn as many points as other projects could. So those were kind of some of the challenges that we faced. And for us as an organization, in round 13, we were the top funded organization of scoring overall. And then in this last round, 15, it was just shift in priorities of funding. But I do think there has to be a whole comprehensive, you know, we need the multifamily, we need single family, we need preservation. It has to be kind of a comprehensive puzzle that we're putting together when we're looking at affordable housing. And to focus all of our resources in one area, then we neglect the other areas that also have those funding needs. That's it, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Director Hubbard?
Next we have Terry Rappuhn with Westminster Home Connection.
Thank you. I'm also here to talk about the funding priorities going forward and the scoring mechanisms. And one thing I'd like to say is that I know there's a lot of work that the commission is doing on kind of trying to think about what to prioritize. I want to encourage you to do all you can, but also go ahead and get round 16 out this calendar year, because the perfect is the enemy of the good, and you can always continue to make improvements, but there's needs today. And so we, for example, we've finished our round 13 grant. We will finish it in September. And so we may even have a month gap before round 15 is signed. So there's just all kinds of needs and opportunities. There are 11,000 homes in this county owned by cost-burdened older adults, which are not being repaired. And I can give you all, I think I may have given you the stats last meeting, but this is really critical for us. The Unified Housing Strategy recommended homeowner rehab as its highest priority, shortest timeline, highest priority, and highest level of new resources needed. And I have to point out that in the last 5 years of Barnes funding, 2% of funds have gone to homeowner rehab. 98% of funds have gone to other things. And I'm just going to advocate for those 11,000 older adults, cost-burdened homeowners, and all the other adults who are not older but also cost-burdened homeowners, because we all agree we have a need for affordable housing, and retaining what we have, I think, is both the least expensive, the quickest, and the most impactful that we can make. I have brought today, hot off the press, we picked them up a couple hours ago, our newsletter, and what's so cool about it is that we've described in here a family. The 76-year-old homeowner has lived in this home except for 2 years of her life. Her 52-year-old daughter has always lived in this home. When they came to us, they heard about us in a neighborhood association meeting. They had a failing roof, they had holes in the floor, and we were able to go in and rehab that house into a livable condition for this multi-generational 70-plus year home. And we couldn't have done it without Barnes Fund. This is a Barnes house. It took $13,000 of Barnes funds to do this house. And if we don't have any other funders that fund at that level. So I encourage you, I support you, and I say, please do all you can, but prioritize through hopefully a set aside or definitely a huge scoring bonus for owner-occupied rehab. And I think I'll just pass these around if that's all right. And if you ever want to publicize this family, I feel sure they would be willing to do that.
Thanks, Terry.
Next, we
Right,
have
Drew.
Ed Holiday with Holiday Ventures.
Hi, good afternoon. Appreciate your all's time. I am here today to just briefly talk about our project in partnership with the Arts and Business Council called Artist Lofts. So this was one of our applications was for round 15. And for a little bit of context for anybody that doesn't know who we are, we've been working in the affordable housing space since 2019 here in Nashville. I've been working in this in Nashville for over 12 years now, working toward creating, the ultimate goal of creating as much affordable housing opportunities as we can. And we've been working with nonprofits of all shapes and sizes over the years to be able to leverage what they're really good at and help provide affordable housing and merge their services with the housing and create better outcomes. So we've worked with Samaritan Recovery Community, we've worked with Urban League, now working with Arts and Business Council. So in regard to Artist Lofts, we had originally applied, and a little background on the project. This in total is 251 units on North Dickerson Pike, geared toward and catering to creatives and artists, and wrapping our services around that with makerspace and art studios. And we'll have a daycare on site, and we'll also have the first transit center incorporated into affordable housing development here in Nashville in partnership with WeGo. That will be right on the frontage of our site. And so I think it's a really unique opportunity for Barnes Fund and also for Nashville, and also to help our creative class providing that much needed affordable housing and affordable creator space. And through, multiple tailwinds of, we had a $7 million grant rescinded from the federal government through the greenhouse gas relief funds. And then we also had a $2 million, basically a Metro is requiring us to front a significant portion of a water line for this project. So we've had to overcome, and that cost $2 million. So we've had to overcome all different types of hurdles. And so I just wanted to say, in terms of our supplemental ask, the original ask was for 148 units. We then came back, and we already received award for that in 2024. Then we came back in the round 15 round and asked for an additional 103 units that we would provide Barnes-funded units for an additional $2.7 million of Barnes funding for the new units. And so our goal today is really just to, provide any clarity around that. We were not awarded in this supplemental round. And although, and this project in a lot of ways is shovel ready, we're moving forward with our THDA funding. At the time of application, we had our THDA bonds, our credits, we had our grading permits, and in terms of projects that were awarded and were not awarded or were put in front of us in priority, I think our project would rise to the top in terms of shovel readiness of a project that is applying for Barnes Fund. And so I would just say for any funding that were to come available or also future rounds, we would just kindly want to share that about Artist Lofts and the need for this additional funding to help make this project a reality. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Director Hubbard?
Last on the sign up is Terry Skipper with New Level CEC.
Good afternoon. I don't want to be redundant, but I do want to take one quick second to talk about scoring. Everybody has had their input from that, but I do want to focus on it as it relates to home ownership. We were not awarded in the last round, although we scored high through the initial scoring, simply because we didn't qualify for the bonus points. The bonus points are very, very difficult to focus on when you're dealing with a project that involves homeownership. It's, with the cost of housing in the Nashville metropolitan area, 60% or less AMI is almost impossible right now, even with subsidies. The long-term affordability beyond the 30 years is virtually impossible because if you're selling something and they have a 30-year mortgage, you cannot have deed restrictions after they own the home free and clear. So that has to be released. And the last is co-op, which is also very precarious. So it works better with the particular bonus system for rentals than it does for home ownership. So I really would like for you all to consider doing separate bonus points under whatever criteria you decide based on home ownership, separate from those that apply better for rental. What I really wanted to talk about, however, is first of all, I wanted to compliment your staff. We have never had a problem reaching them. They've always been very gracious as far as explaining to us what the scoring method was about, anything they could share. They've been wonderful to work with, but they can only do so much. I feel for you all because Barnes Fund is pretty much the only game in town. It's the best game in town right now. So everybody is going into that pot, and everybody's putting their opinion in. However, Nashville is in a wonderful position of growth. There are more corporations who are interested in relocating here and those who are locating here. I strongly encourage you to put pressure on those companies to also contribute, if not to Barnes Fund, to make a contribution of some type coming in and setting up organizations so that it does help us with supplemental housings, with supplementing the cost of housing and take some of the pressure off of Barnes Fund to help us leverage other dollars. They have a stake in this as well, because if their employment is not stable, their profitability is not going to be what they anticipated it to be. And I will tell you, as well, my children are grown now, but for many years I was a single parent. If I had to live in Kentucky, if I had to live south of Murfreesboro to find an affordable place to live and I had children in school or daycare, it wouldn't make financial sense for me to continue to come back and forth to Nashville with no rapid transit system. If a daycare or school calls you and says your child is sick, you got a limited time to get there to pick up that child. Not only that, if they're not, you got to be there by 6 o'clock. There are so many things that make it very difficult for employment stability based on the cost of housing here. And the last thing I'll say is we are not exclusive to focusing on African Americans in housing, but we are intentional in that. In 1975, 50 years ago, the home ownership rate for African Americans was 43.9%. In 2024, it was 44.1%. That's ridiculous. 50 years, and there have been very little gains. And it's even more difficult and lower in Nashville, Davidson County, because the cost of housing is so prohibitive. We pay the same thing for lumber to construct housing everybody else does. Our costs are the same as everybody else. Without the subsidies, it would be virtually impossible, which creates an unhealthy and unstable community. So anything you can do to put pressure on getting additional funding that's not connected to the Barnes Fund that can be leveraged would be greatly encouraged. Thank you for listening and have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Is that the end of our list, Director?
Yes, Chair, we are ready to move to the next item.
All right, thank you very much. Next up on our agenda is the financial update. We have, Commissioners, this is in your packet, our July 2025 financials. This is the budget to actuals. And I'll turn it back over to you, Director, to walk us through that.
Thank you. So if you recall last meeting, Catherine presented the budget for FY26. And just a reminder, if folks weren't here, and to the commissioners, that beginning this fiscal year, all administrative costs to the Barnes Fund for staff and other subscriptions and other items that had previously been part of the Barnes Fund are now in the planning operational budget. So 100% of all of the Barnes Fund allocation or appropriation through Metro Council goes to projects or project-related expenses. So in the month of July, we recorded deeds, and that cost $1,000. The project management, which is our contract, I'm sorry, that's our budget. We haven't had any costs this month. Our project management, which we have a contract with Capital Project Solutions to do the physical inspections of all construction-related work before we pay. They billed us for $2,210, and then we had a combined draws for grantees of over $200,000. And so the total budget to actuals, the actuals for July are $210,754.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from the commission? I see one, just a moment.
I mean, that's exciting. That helps us focus on the fund, and it'll make the financials easier and more straightforward.
Any further comments from the commission? All right, thank you for that report, Director. Next up is item 5. These are items for votes. There's a series of contract grant amendments, and I'll ask Director Hubbard to walk us through them one at a time. And each of these will require a vote.
Was for an extension for Affordable Housing Resources. They notified us last week that their request is withdrawn because the project will be completed before the expiration of their contract. So we are ready to move to the next item.
All right. Item 2, Director.
This is a contract amendment, extension and scope change for Urban Housing Solutions. They were awarded a round 10 grant for $2.1 million to initially construct 13 homes or units. And they're have gone through some redesign, which has led to a delay in the need for the extension. And part of that design will enable them to produce an additional 5 units. These won't be Barnes Fund units, but because we track contracts and their numbers, we asked for this scope change to be included as part of the amendment, just so we're tracking the contract appropriately, but it's also not any increase to the budget.
All right, thank you, Director. Any questions from the commission? Yes, Gina, there you go.
I just have to abstain from this vote.
All right, thank you for that. Any further questions? All right, is there a motion to approve? There's a motion to approve from Jayla. Is there a second? Second from Antone. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, next is item 3, Habitat for Humanity. Director Hubbard.
An amendment to request an extension for an additional 12 months for a round 10 grant Habitat for Humanity received for $1.98 million. The amendment is needed to address delays in the project related to many of the issues Ms. Houseworth discussed with NES, infrastructure work at the site, weather conditions, pandemic-related disruptions, and then metro review and approvals. But the project is making progress. They've had 2 draws, one for over $200,000 and another one over $675,000. Staff recommend the extension.
Thank you for that, Director. Any questions or comments from the commission?
I will need to abstain from this vote.
Okay, thank you for noting that. Any further discussion, comments? Is there a motion to approve? All right, we have a motion to approve from Gina. Is there a second? Second from Antone. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, with 1 abstention. Next up is item number 4 on item number 5. This is the Woodbine Community Organization contract extension. Director Hubbard.
Is an extension to, as well as an amendment to change the draw schedule for a contract awarded to Woodbine through round 10 for $2.47 million to build 182 homes. The delay is from, or the need for the extension is the change, the additional units that were part of the change from a previous amendment. And then the draw request changes to allow additional redevelopment costs not exceeding 25% of their grants. Staff approved this extension and draw schedule modification. Finance is closed and construction has already begun on the site.
All right, thank you for those comments. Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve from Jayla. Is there a second? Second from Deborah. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. This gets us to now Part B of item number 5. And this is the round 15 awards. There are two parts of this. We'll take these up one at a time. The first of these is a round 15 award vote rescission. And I'll turn it over to Director Hubbard to walk us through this.
Thank you. There were several comments, and as you recall, at your last meeting, the commission voted to not approve or did not approve the request to change the project location for the Tennessee Voices Award. The results were for staff to do additional research on what could happen next. During that research, we discovered that the applicant's partner had applied for the MDHA funding prior to the opening of the Barnes. Am I on? Oh, yes, yay. So we discovered that the applicant's partner had applied for the CDBG disaster recovery money through MDHA prior to the opening of the Barnes Fund funding round. In the application, we ask in a couple or maybe even 3 places for applicants to disclose if all the funding that they've applied for that site or that property, and this was not included. Further, the applicant included a statement that no additional funding was necessary. After reviewing this, staff have a recommendation to rescind the vote because we believe that this could have impacted the scoring for this project ultimately, and that's the basis for our recommendation to the commission.
Thank you, Director Hubbard. Members of the commission, we'll open up for questions. Antonio? Okay. Are there any questions regarding the staff memo? All right. Is there a motion to move? So I guess in this case, we need to vote affirmatively to approve the rescission. So is there a motion to approve the rescission? Jayla makes the motion. Is there a second? Second. Second from Antone. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Next up on our agenda is the reallocation of the $4.5 million from round 15. I'll turn it back over to Director Hubbard to walk us through this item.
Thank you, Chair. Based upon the affirmative motion to rescind the $4.5 million, this frees it up for an award to another round 15 grant. Staff do recommend this be applied to round 15 applications. This was highly competitive, and there were several, of course, projects that were not funded. And we recommend that the $4.5 million be awarded to the next highest scoring application, which was submitted by the Urban League of Middle Tennessee for the Madison Station project. They also requested $4.5 million. This is consistent with the previously approved awards, how they were awarded funding from highest scoring until funding was exhausted.
Thank you for that description, Director. Commissioners, are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to affirmatively reallocate the 4.5 million of grant for round 15. Deborah makes that motion. Is there a second? Second. Anton with the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the ayes have it. The motion carries to reallocate 4.5 million for the Madison Station project. All right. Next up on our agenda, we will be moving to, under items for discussion. Don't think we have any items for discussion today. And we'll move on to announcements. This is number 7 on our agenda. We have a recognition of Councilmember Taylor and Commissioner Emanuel for the fact that they have reached the end of their service on our commission. The goodie package will be delivered to you at some point, I'm sure, Gina. So I know I speak for myself, other commissioners, members of the staff, and certainly members of the audience to express the appreciation for both what Councilmember Taylor and what Commissioner Emanuel have provided to us, not just to this body, but to the conversation in general around the needs to improve housing opportunities for all of our communities. So just want to take a moment to express our appreciation. Yeah. Director, yes.
So it's for both. We have a certificate each for Commissioner Emanuel and Councilmember Taylor, but I will read it for Commissioner Emanuel. In grateful recognition of your dedicated service and outstanding contributions as a commissioner of the Metro Nashville Housing Trust Fund, your leadership, commitment, and thoughtful guidance have strengthened our work and advanced our mission. We deeply appreciate the time, expertise, and passion you have shared in service to our community. With sincere gratitude, we thank you for your years of service and lasting impact. So thank you, Commissioner. It's been great. The next appointment to fill a vacancy is actually through the Homelessness Planning Council. And then we're sad to see Councilmember Taylor's term in, but we're very excited that Councilmember Berkeley Allen will be stepping in as the council representative.
All right, thank you, Director. And I've already told Commissioner Emanuel this, but I do look forward to being able to get coffee with you and pick your brain without having to worry about any potential conflict. So I'm looking forward to that. So we do have some meetings coming up in November and December. Director, is there anything you wanted to just state about those?
Yes, typically, since the commission meetings fall on the 4th Tuesday of the month, this is around both Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so typically there is a combined meeting, usually somewhere right before Thanksgiving or at the beginning of December. We are elevating this now so members of the public and the commission know that the meeting in December or November and December will change. We are trying to find locations, and then we'll send a doodle poll to the commissioners to check your availability and make sure that any change of the meeting date is adequately noticed.
All right, thank you very much for that. And I believe next up is going to be our round 15 debrief. Just quick, we wanted to go ahead and conclude this meeting and then reopen.
Correct. We just wanted to remind everyone that the business meeting will adjourn and then we will open the work session, and there are no votes taken. There will be no actions taken of the commission during the work session.
Thank you for that, Director. All right, seeing no further business before us for this business meeting, we'll go ahead and adjourn that meeting. And next we will move into our August work session. I believe everyone has the packet. Sounds good. We will take a 5-minute recess.